Welcome back to the Following Films podcast. Today's guest has captured the internet's heart by proving that being a parent doesn't mean you have to look like a suburban dad. Known to millions as the punk rock girl dad, Sid Broderius has gone viral for his videos introducing his young daughter Lorelai to the high-energy world of the Riverboat Gamblers, Ramones, Against Me, and The Clash. Based in Spokane, Washington, Sid has been a staple of the local music scene for 2 decades and currently plays in the band The Emergency Exit. Whether he's letting Lorelai explore his guitar collection or spinning classic punk vinyl, his philosophy is rooted in sharing his deepest passions, to foster genuine family bonding through music and subculture. With a following of over 32,000 on Instagram and shoutouts from bands like Bowling for Soup, Sid is showing the world that the next generation of music fans starts at home. We're going to talk about his viral journey, his life in the Spokane scene, and the art of passing down a punk rock legacy. Please welcome to the show, Sid Broderius.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, man. So the reason I was reaching out, one, I think probably punk rock music is one of the most important things in my life. And it always has been ever since, I was in like 8th grade. It kind of cracked my mind open. It led to movies that I love. It led to books that I loved. It led to film, everything, every part of my life. It led to the woman that I ended up marrying, the kids that I have. It's like so core and foundational, but it's not something I ever thought that would stick around. I thought I was going to outgrow it. I'm in the last year of my 40s and I'm still going to shows. I thought I was going to outgrow this shit. Why do we hang on to it?
I don't know, man. I have a pretty similar story. I was probably 10 or 11 living in the Bay Area. And, my local like K-Rock affiliate was introducing me to like Green Day and The Offspring and a bunch of bands like that. And then when I turned 12, I kind of realized I wanted to play an instrument and like maybe play in a band.
Yeah.
And then I got a bass at 13 and I was playing in a band at 14. And that has been a consistent for me. I'm 36. I've never not been in a band for, more than a couple months. It is part of me for sure. And, I think probably everyone has their reasoning for it sticking to you. But I don't know, man, it's tough. If it spoke to you at such a young age, you just kind of glued to it and then you're kind of stuck with it. It seems like. The joke in the the elder emo crowd is it was never a phase.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's totally true, right? Like, is that what it feels like for you? It was just never a phase. And
well, yeah, because there was this idea that when you're younger, and it feels like this is really punk rock music specifically, was the domain, and music in general is kind of the domain of the young, where it's one of the few art forms that the older you get, the more sort of irrelevant your ideas about it are. And so, if you're 15 years old, I have a 15-year-old son, and so his music to me oftentimes is horrible. But I love, there's certain things I listen to that I absolutely love that he turns me on to. But the fact that there's shit that he's listening to that I hate means that they're doing something right. Because you shouldn't be making 50-year-olds happy when you're 15.
Well, for the younger crowd, there's always going to be the kids that get into punk at the ages we got into it, right? Yeah. And I think each new generation just finds new popular music, but there's always going to be those like alternative kids,
of course.
And like with me trying to show my daughter like all these punk records that mean something to me. For all I know, she's going to grow up being like a, hardcore Billie Eilish fan. And that's cool, man.
That's great.
pop. Guilty pleasure, bubblegum pop music, radio pop,
Sure.
and new metal. So like, yes, I would classify myself as a punk rocker,
Sure.
and but yeah, I mean, every once in a while I'll throw on a little T Swift or something. And I don't know. As
Well,
long as these kids, I think the most important thing is that they grow up with an appreciation of music,
yeah,
and that the next generation carries music forward. Like uh, our parents who grew up listening to like the Beatles and shit, like when punk rock came around, they thought it was like the devil's music.
of course.
And blah blah blah. And yeah, I'm sure parents today hate all this like mumble rap and whatever, but it's making the kids happy, man. And
No, and then there's stuff that's in between that I try to be open-minded. I never wanted to close myself off to new art, but there are things that I just don't connect with me for whatever reason. But the thing that I want from my kid more than anything, it's not to for both of my children, it's not for them to think like I think, but to think for themselves.
absolutely.
If you don't agree with me politically, that's fine. But as long as you're not regurgitating bumper stickers and thoughts that you heard on like some political news station, or that you're just not, that you're actually putting thought and there's heart in it. There's conviction behind the things that you say, but behind the art that you consume, that you care about it. That's what matters to me.
Yeah. So kind of going back to like you and I connecting to punk rock around
Yeah.
this age. Oh, geez. It already slipped my mind. Oh, this is going to be a terrible podcast, man.
No. Good, man.
It's just, for me and maybe for you, punk rock gave me belonging.
Sure.
When I was in elementary school, I felt like I was that classically picked on kid. And then I moved to Eastern Washington, and from the Bay Area, I felt like even more of an outcast. Yeah, those early things I was listening to made me feel like I was a part of something. And I think that's why I was so desperate to start learning an instrument and joining a band, because already it was giving me a place, and it has always given me a place. I mean, one of our local venues might as well be my second home.
Yeah.
We had this, you said your wife and you kind of met via.
Well, it's the connection of music. It wasn't through that. I know that it's not for everybody, but when somebody doesn't have something that they're passionate about, it doesn't have to be music per se, but they have to love something, something creative. They have to, love books. They have to love film. They have to love something in their life. They have to love going to museums. If you have something that you're turned on by, then I can connect with you. If you don't have that, it's just tough for me to find a way in.
I mean, honestly, every once in a while in life, you'll run into somebody that's like, I don't like music.
Yeah. My sister's one of those people.
I can't trust you because you're barely human. I think music runs through pretty much, throughout every culture that has been on Earth for thousands upon thousands of years. It might not all sound the same, but we are attracted to music as a human species. But what I was going to say is, like, for me, punk rock is like absolutely how I met my wife. And this year we'll have been married for 13 years, been together.
Oh, wow. Congrats. You guys got married young.
Yeah, we'll have been together. I was 20 when I met her. And how I met her was we had this really run down venue, and it was all ages. They didn't sell alcohol.
Yeah.
They didn't sell alcohol.
Right.
It was a punk club. And one night we had a show there, and I looked over at like what would have been a bar if it had alcohol, and I saw this girl sitting there, and I turned to my friend and I was like, you see that girl right there? I'm going to marry her. And I swear that is not being cheesy. I swear to God, I said those words.
Did you feel it in your heart though when you said that?
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
she was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And yeah, she was really cool. And then, yeah, we've been together ever since. So,
That's amazing. That's incredible. That does not happen. So,
I feel very lucky to have found her because she's been, just the most amazing partner. And we've gone on so many cool adventures, and, we're getting to the kid thing late in life. I mean, I'm 36, she's 37, and
right.
our daughter is 19 months old. But I think that's perfectly cool.
Yeah.
My parents were like 21 when they had me. They don't know a life without me around. But yeah, I feel very lucky to have met my wife through punk rock. It was, show I was playing, and yeah.
Well, there were assumptions that I think I even made about what my life would be like at this point. I didn't know that I would make it to 50 years old. It wasn't something that I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about. And if
Right.
some of the choices I made in my 20s, I mean, it's a little bit surprising that I made it through unscathed. But
Absolutely, man. Especially if you're, in that CD club environment,
yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's what seems normal is based on the people that you spend time with, and the sense of community that is what really kept me in music for so long and continues to keep me there. My community, we had some issues. And so, we were very supportive, and there was a lot of love there, but it wasn't necessarily the safest environment. And, it would be more uncommon for someone to be working on their doctorate than to maybe be working on their second DUI. And so when that seems normal, your expectations are lowered for yourself, I think.
Yeah. I feel that. But on the flip side of that, though, the punk rock scene,
it's not just that thing, though.
Up in it, I was growing up in it as a millennial,
right?
And it feels like by the mid 2000s, it was becoming a very positive environment. And then I hear stories of like Gen X punk rockers that were like, just going haywire. And that's cool too. But yeah, man.
But I started volunteering for the food bank through going to punk rock shows. Yes. I became aware. Yeah, it was, punk rock saves lives, all these things that you get involved in through that scene, that it's something that can absolutely have a positive for sure. It was
we just did a few out of town shows with a band called Not Green Day, which is they're a Green Day tribute band, but
sure.
I feel like they're the Green Day tribute band. But they bring us out all the time. And on this last one, Punk Rock Saves Lives was there.
Okay.
And it was super cool to meet them and talk.
Well, it's such a simple thing to be involved in. You just for the bone marrow transplants, and just it's at every one of the festival shows that you'll go to. That's if you're that they have a presence at all of them, and they're doing great work. And it's just one of those things that, as I've gotten older, I think that when I was younger, when I was in my teens and 20s, I was much more defined by what I consumed. So it was the music that I listened to. It was the things I put in my body. It was the life that I was leading. Now that I've gotten older, my 30s, 40s, and now going to my 50s, I'm more concerned with the things that I create, what I'm putting out into the world, not what I'm taking from it. I'm actually far more concerned with that now than I was before.
Yeah. For me, it feels like the music that I've released out into streaming services and stuff, I always pick the like never delete option.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's going to be, obviously my kid and stuff, but those albums that I put out are like going to be my legacy. That's, some random person might find it 40 years from now and hopefully connects with it. Like when I, write music and playing with the emergency exit, I don't care if there's one person in the crowd. If that person feels connected to what we're doing, like if they feel something while we're playing, then that's all I need.
Yeah.
If whatever song I've written or we've written touches one person and they feel connected to it, that's what matters. It makes all of the bullshit that goes with being in a band, like getting paid and pizza and all the hard work we put into recording. As long as just one person connects to it, man, that's all that matters to me.
Well, I really want to follow up on that because I could not agree with you more on that. But I think you're also Waiting is probably the best song I think I've heard you guys put out. So you guys are, I love that song. I think that's a phenomenal song. So you're just in the time that I've spent going through your stuff, I can hear an evolution in your music already, and it's getting better as it goes along.
So this last Sunday, I was at my drummer's studio for almost 10 hours, and we finished tracking bass that day for a new record. And I don't know, there's something about this batch of songs for this new record that I feel, I just feel like I reached into a new part of myself for the lyrics, and I'm really, really excited about it. Because what happens is I write these like skeletons of songs that are like a chord progression and lyrics,
sure,
and bring it to the guys, and I mean, they each have their own flavors, and the way they flesh out what I've brought to the table is just truly amazing to me. Our drummer is a huge ska fan, and I am a ska fan. I was definitely like a ska teenager.
If you don't go through a ska phase, I mean, come on, everybody has to do that.
Yeah, and I still love ska. I mean, I got checkers tattooed on me. I'm
sure
stuck with, but our guitar player is like really into alternative rock, and he does punk amazing, but he brings in these ideas that you would think like, oh, this doesn't work in a punk song, but it totally does.
Yeah.
Which is super, super cool. And that first record, Absolutes, we put out was, it's a good record, but I'm really excited for people to hear this new one.
So am I, and that's what I was going to ask, if this is a part of something larger, or if you just recorded the one song that was coming out, if it was a part of something bigger. So I'm excited to hear that.
So we did the Waiting cover. So funny story about that and you liking it. Which
do you not care for it?
No. So we got we like put in to be on it in like December.
Okay.
And then we were told we're going to be on this Green Day compilation in like January, and the due date was like March 8th or something. And we all just kind of forgot about it. Like every time we practice, we'd be like, okay, well, homework is go learn Waiting and we'll come back. So March 1st rolls around and we have done nothing yet. So we got together and we're like, how can we make this our own? And, we decided on kind of double time drums to really rock it out a little bit. And, we told our drummer, like, you go home, put whatever you want down. We will come in and fill the rest out. As long as like the structure is there, then we're fine. So we were like writing that, all three of us on the fly, essentially separately. But yeah, it turned out really cool. And then before that, we did a cover of Steal My Sunshine by Len, which I am super proud of. Well, we actually got a message from the singer of Len, and he was like, this is awesome. It's like, how did you even find this, dude?
Well, I love it when a cover song, and in both cases you do this with Steal My Sunshine and with Waiting, that it's a song I'm familiar with, but you bring something else to it. The reason that Waiting hit me was because you're taking, it's when you're taking like a pop song like Steal My Sunshine and you're putting a punk beat behind it, like that feels like that's how you change it. There's a normal natural progression. Okay, I'm going to cover a Britney Spears song. I'm going to make it punk rock. Got it. I see what you're doing. When you cover a punk rock song and you still put your own identity on it, that's really impressive to me, to do that in that way. And it's not to disparage the other song. It's just that's why I was so impressed by Waiting, because here's a song I'm very familiar with that you're still putting your own identity on a very well-known song in a similar style, but showing your own voice with it. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. We're happy with it. The label that's putting it out seemed to be happy with it. And, we're just, again, we were super rushing it. I think we're all still proud of it. It's just, it'll always be in the back of my mind, like, man, we did this on the fly. Like, anyway, yeah. So thank you for that. And I'm really stoked for you to hear what we're working on next.
I'm excited to hear it. But something you mentioned before that is one of the truest things about bands and going to see shows. You mentioned that it doesn't matter if there's one person there. You just play with all your heart. And if you connect with them, that's it. Job well done. You can call it a day. So I walked into a bar where my friend was bartending when I was like 22, 23, something like that. So this is 20 years ago plus at this point. I walk into this bar and there's a band setting up. And so we go outside and we look behind the trailer, and it's all the bands that we listen to. So, it's Face to Face, Lagwagon, a couple of like smaller bands. So it's like, okay, cool. There's somebody I want to check out. They put on one of my favorite shows I've ever been to. And it was me, my friend, the bartender, and the person that was driving them that day. That was it. We were the 4 people that were there.
That is truly amazing. I've been to a couple shows that are very similar.
But more ridiculously, they were filming the show. We kept in contact with these guys over the years. They made a documentary years later, like 20 years later, about they were a band that almost made it. And so they're one of those bands that they were called Left Unsaid that got close to making it, but never really made it. And that night is in that documentary. I was sent that documentary through this podcast from a publicist just saying like, hey, check this movie out. Think you might like it. And me and my buddy were in the movie randomly for like a split second. The point is, though, it's the show that I always go back to in my mind. It's like they thought of it as band practice that night. They're like, whatever, there's 2 people here. Who gives a shit? Let's play like there was 1,000 people and let's go as hard as we can. And we'll just get a little bit better tonight. And it was one of my favorite shows I've ever seen.
That's so cool, man.
It's,
I live in Spokane, Washington, and this town can be really, really weird with shows. Like we'll have somebody come through, like, I'm trying to think of the last really crazy one, Teenage Bottle Rocket.
Oh yeah. They played in Tucson like earlier this year. Yeah.
And, this room is probably like 140 people,
mm-hmm.
and it was sold out.
Of course.
Completely sold out. But then, I know Ryan from Off With Their Heads.
Oh God, they're so great. What a great band. Love them.
Yeah, and he emailed me and was like, hey, our show on this date in Idaho fell through. Can you put something together for us in Spokane? And I said, absolutely. And he's like, there was this tiny hole in the wall bar we went to that had like an upstairs, and it had a golden tea machine in the corner. I had to chuckle because it's this absolutely shitty bar called Movies in like the most dangerous part of Spokane. But that's what he wanted. So I got a show there. And probably 90% of the shows on that tour they were on was sold out.
Of course.
And 13 people came through the door that night at Mootsie's, which is insane.
Off With Their Heads, that makes no sense.
And the weird part is, I know a ton of people that love that band, and they just, yeah. So I don't know what that was about, but for me, it was amazing because I'm sitting there watching one of my favorite bands, and we're this far apart, So So that was very, very cool. Kind of lame because I wanted to give them a good show, but still a really cool memory to have.
Those are it for the band themselves. They don't value it probably as much as we as the audience do. But you're saying when you're on the other side of that, if you feel somehow connected in that room with those 13 people, there can be something that happens in that room that's just incredible. So how do you get through those when you go out and you play when you do tour and you go on the road and something goes sideways and you're not making your gas money that night?
You already said it. It's band practice.
Okay, got it.
It is exactly what we say when it's stuff like that. Because there's musicians that I'm friends with and I really like, but they're just not big enough to make an impact in a place with Spokane.
Sure.
But they can go to Seattle and 100 people show up. But here, I have a buddy of mine that comes through every once in a while, and nobody really shows up, and that really bums me out because he's one of my favorite singers, to be completely honest. But yeah, man, you get some amazing shows and you get some duds, and you just do your thing either way.
So could you talk a little bit about when you started doing these? And it feels so ridiculous to say this, but I discovered you and your band through Instagram, through the punk rock parenting videos with your daughter, being a punk rock girl dad. And that's just, it feels so weird to discover music that way, but I'm kind of over it at this point. And I've discovered some great bands through Instagram. So it's fine. It's acceptable. It's just the world we live in now. I don't go blindly buy albums like I used to when I was 15 years old. So I discover things that way that I wouldn't hear otherwise.
I could think of 100 bands that are up and coming right now that got there purely through TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
They just, and it's kind of weird because they'll just post the same song over and clips of the same song.
Yeah.
For 4 months. But that gets them views, that gets them streams, and that's just how the music industry is now, man. I feel like the generation before me, so the bands that were popular when I was in middle school and freshman year,
mm-hmm.
That was the last chunk of bands that could have one major single that is going to pay for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And after that, we started getting, more internet-based music. And, you'd have people at Warped Tour that weren't even playing that were just please put these headphones on and listen to my song and buy our CD for $5 or whatever. But yeah, then it moved into social media. And just that seems to be the gold standard for people starting to get themselves known. I mean, I don't even know if these bands play shows or if they're just in their basement,
I think that's the disconnect. Because to me, if you can't do it live, then I don't really think of you as a band for the most part. I'm sure there's people that they record music and it's amazing and they'll never play a live show and they should be 100% considered a band. But it just to me doesn't, if you don't go through that system to some degree, it's hard for me to get my head around it. And I guess I probably should change the way I look at it, but it's still, there's a disconnect there.
Yeah. So what happened with the punk rock girl dad stuff?
Right.
So I went to we were playing this show at a very large venue in Spokane, and we needed to get these free tickets out. So I hit up a tattoo artist friend of mine, and was like, hey man, can you just I'm going to give you 50 tickets. Can you give them out to people? And at the same time, I was like, well, I'm already coming down to see you. Let's do a tattoo. So I got in there and he was actually having a meeting with a social media consultant. And, as he's getting my tattoo ready, I'm talking to her and I was like, you know what? I got to get better at social media for my band.
Yeah.
And then that kind of turned into a handful of videos that I was just you know, just on my own profile. They were very silly,
Yeah.
nothing punk rock girl dad or anything. It was just like trying to be funny. And then I did the very first punk rock girl dad video. And I mean, it got like some views, but my sister-in-law, who is a pretty well-known makeup artist, messaged me and she's like, you have to keep doing these because people will like them. And I'm like, you're very wrong. There's and then yeah, I just did a couple more and then just one went off. And then I made another one and people like it. So I just kept making them. And now I'm making like all these connections with like the bands I cover. They show up in the comments and, you know, some of them will like DM me. It's just very, very cool. Cause now I'm like getting in touch with like these bands that I mean everything to me and they've inspired me to make the music that I do. And it's really fun to just try to teach a barely conscious toddler about music. But yeah, so people have like sent her stuff. Like they say, can you show your daughter our record? Or, you know, Sparrow Sleep sent us some t-shirts. They're like, put her in punk clothes. And I was like, absolutely.
Well, it's the juxtaposition of the things that you're talking to your daughter about at times, you know, to cite like specific things where you're talking about like brand new being problematic or something like that. When you're going through that, I was dying laughing and it's just so great. And, or there's, you know, you talk about the parkour tendencies of the singer of Riverboat Gamblers, like those things that's a small group of people that'll get that joke, but it's fucking hilarious, man.
Yeah. But goddamn, how good are Riverboat Gamblers, man? I love that band. I mean, possibly in my top five.
So True Crime is one of those songs that I will put on anytime that I need to move fast to something. That is just, if I'm jogging, if I'm whatever that is, if it's something that I just need to feel energy, I need to move for some reason, that's it. That's my go-to. That album is probably flawless in my opinion.
I agree. That album, I mean, pretty much every album really. But yeah, I totally get that vibe for True Crime. Yeah. Anyway, love that band.
Sorry. Yes.
For the 15 people that got the parkour thing.
Well, it's just go see them play live, because if you get the chance to see them play, it's incredible the way that he was climbing around on every inch of this little bar that I saw them play in made no sense. So just what a presence on stage. Incredible.
When I was probably 18 or 19, I drove to Seattle and they weren't even headlining the show. They were like the opener and I went just to see them. And, it was insanity. I mean, it was at El Corazon in Seattle and he's like all over the place. Yeah, I love that band so much. And yeah, there's some other like kind of lesser known bands that mean a lot to me. Like Big D and the Kids Table is a huge one.
Yeah. The Boston band, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've always been super cool to me and my wife. I've hung out with them several times. Dave actually, so there was like an earlier iteration of the Emergency Exit that had like 2 albums. And the second one, we flew Dave from Big D over just to we said produce it, but it was really just him hanging out in my basement of all places where we had like thousands of dollars of recording gear. And it was just like, what do you think of this? And one thing he worked with me a lot on was the lyrics. And like, there's this one thing he told me is like, I was writing a lot about myself in these songs. So he was like, try to write to include other people with you. So instead of like, I am a lone wolf, it was like, are you a lone wolf like me? Um, and that's, I think, probably the best songwriting advice I've ever gotten, because, that much more is something that builds that one connection that you need to make.
And the vulnerability of writing lyrics, I will never understand. It's one of those things. I've tried, and I will probably try again at different points in my life, but I can throw a couple chords together and put something that sounds okay in my head. But as soon as I try to put lyrics to it beyond just like humming a melody, I can't do it. It's so embarrassing for me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I get that, but I think once you do it enough times, you just kind of get over it.
Well,
And yeah, I totally get that. Like there's things that I've written that are like either way too personal
yeah.
or something like that, and it's like I should be nervous about saying this out loud in front of a crowd of people, but you know
Well,
uh,
it's strange when you take lyrics out of context of the music and you just evaluate it and look at it and judge it as a poem. A lot of times, lyrics that seem great in a song, they don't really pop out until they have music behind them and
yeah,
something that sounds incredible as a poem. When you read it, when you put music to it, it can feel overwritten. So it's almost like you have to really like kind of strip things away to make
yeah,
lyrics work in a song. At least to me, somebody who's not a writer at all.
yeah. I can understand that. Yeah, so like I said, I started playing pretty young, and um it was instantly trying to write lyrics. And that first like year or two, like you're trying to learn how to play and you're trying to learn how to write songs. And it, especially like age 14 for me, like everything came out like as such a rip off, so
Of
such an
course.
obvious rip off of something else. And it wasn't until I was like 16 that I was really writing stuff that felt like me. um but you got to start somewhere, man.
Well,
And
that's how we learn how to communicate. You're a dad now, and you can watch that in your daughter, where they learn how to talk by mimicking the voices around them. They learn it's through they start putting things together, and you learn how to write and express yourself by trying on somebody else's voice. You have to. It's the way you have to do that, and eventually you're able to speak from your heart, but you have to try on somebody else's, sort of affectation before you find your own.
right. And she is currently going through a bit of like a language explosion where
Yeah,
she's getting to the point where she's saying like two syllable words or like two words back to back.
that's
Um,
great.
and it's just a few things right now, but like it seems like every day she's saying something new. Um, like to Actually, it was this morning. She like pointed at her shoes across the room, was like, "My shoes." And we'd never heard her do that. And it's just so fucking cool, man.
It's incredible. And it's things you don't even necessarily work on. They'll just they'll blow you away with that stuff. The things that they're picking up on that you're unaware of. It's incredible. And it's so much deeper than just the words. It's the way that you and your wife interact with each other. They're picking up on that. The way that you interact with strangers when you go out into public, they pick up on all these things. And so you just have to be aware of the little human that you're creating right now. It's just such a wonderful and daunting responsibility.
Yeah, and uh, I I have a record player in my living room, and I'm always
Yeah.
playing uh, punk rock records. So I'm hoping. Um, well, let me back up. I don't censor myself at all. Just
I, I would much rather my kid know how to swear properly and
yes,
not say mean things than to say fuck. I don't care if they swear. They need to know how to swear properly, when they should swear and when they shouldn't swear. And they need to not say hurtful things to people, is what I'm more concerned with.
yeah. I had this little like thought today of like she's starting to learn words, and if I keep playing like these certain albums over and over, she's probably going to pick up on it, and by age 4 or 5 be singing along.
Yeah.
And uh it crossed my mind today, like I've been playing Blink-182's Take Off Your Pants and Jacket a lot. And just the idea of her saying, "Shut the fuck up," she said. I actually, if I hear her singing along to her first song and it's that, I'm going to be super pumped.
The first time you hear your kid say fuck, for me, it's hilarious. Like you don't want them saying it every other word, obviously, so you can't like let them know how funny it is, but I just think it's fantastic when they're 3 years old and they pick that up. I think both of them were younger than 5 the first time I heard them swear. So yeah, probably not a great parent, but I enjoy it.
I don't think that's the case at all.